Welcome to Access Zen with Gregory Foster. Our program will help you set a more perfect balance between your inner world and the outside world. And now, here's your host, Gregory Foster.
And good morning. I'm Gregory Foster, and you're listening to Access Zen. So on today's show, we've got a very memorable show for you. I think one that will stand the test of time. We've got Parra. We're going to play 3 cuts from his brand new record called Lowered. And then in between there, we're going to get to meet Pat, talk to him. And then we're going to take a little break, come back, and you're going to get to meet a fantastic woman by the name of Brenda Edelman, who does this incredible one-woman show on forgiveness and just some amazing information there that she's going to share with you. And then together they're going to come back and we're going to kind of compare notes and stories, because I think Pat's got some pretty amazing stuff to share that's inspired this record. And Brenda's going to come on and kind of fill in. And then Pat's going to come back and we're going to play some more music. So anyways, you're listening to Access In, and I'm Gregory Foster. And let's go ahead and let's just kick it off. The brand new season, here is Pat Parra with Forget Your Love.
Forget your love.
Wow. Pat, that song is just haunting and memorable. I've been playing it for like the last week and hearing it again. It's just incredible. So please, everybody, put your hands together for Pat Parra. Pat, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, that's cool. You like it?
That's some pretty good music. I gotta tell you, before we let you tell your story, that I am definitely a huge music lover. I think you probably listened to my show I did in the first season.
Yeah.
And, I think just from my personal perspective that music has, and I'm not going to shoot anybody down because obviously there's a lot of great artists out there today. But, the classic era, 60s, 70s, even if you look at the arena rock era, but then specifically looking at you, this stuff that I'm listening to you right now, it really, a station like K-Rock, which, for those in LA know I'm talking about, this is the kind of album that I think would have lit the music scene up, back in the mid-90s. And I got to tell you, Pat, like I said, there are some good artists out there, but I really haven't heard any album quite like this in a long time. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's really cool. That's cool to think that.
And I can just hear the pain and the depth, like what I would have heard from Nirvana, I would have heard from Pearl Jam, I might have even heard from like an Alice in Chains. You do it in a very eclectic and original way that's all your own. So please share with us and the listeners, your background and what inspired you on this record.
Yeah, I think I definitely always wanted to do kind of like an early 90s, kind of like grunge sound, and I feel like I finally was able to do that with this record. Like, I always really liked early 90s rock and stuff like that. So it's funny that you say that, you mentioned the 90s. But yeah, this record, like that song, I've been writing a bunch of songs about the same girl who like cheated on me. I was like, kind of trying to deal with her cheating on me through music and writing a lot of songs. And that song, Forget Your Love, was the last song I wrote about her, and I haven't, and finally, because I think I've written like 10 to 12 songs about her, so.
You feel like you finally got her out of your system?
I think so. I think I'm still working on it a little bit, but I think, I don't know, I told myself that was the last song I was going to write about her, and that's pretty much on this album, that's like, I think the only song like directly about a girl or something, so.
Yeah, well, I just have to tell you, she's been a great inspiration for you because that, in my opinion, that's a hit. You get that on some major radio station, that's going to get picked up big time, my friend. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
Some good music. So, and just for the listeners' sake, listening here to Access In, I'm Gregory Foster, your host. We're going to go on a short break here in a minute, but I just want to share with you that music is so linked to the soul of how to express. We talk on the show how to release, whatever things we're holding on to. And Pat, I'm sure you would agree that music has been a great outlet for you, right?
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
That's beautiful. So, am I accurate in saying that you worked on this for about 4 years? Is that right?
Yeah, about 4 years. I was kind of working on a couple albums at the same time, but this one, it took me a long time to get it out and finally get my friends involved and adding like drums on it and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're musicians. Maybe at the end you can kind of give them a little tribute, but incredibly well played record. No, there's no question about it. So, congratulations to you on that.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. So you're on. So your record is on a private label called Blueberry Hill. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm on like one of their side labels, My Darling Records, and it should be coming out, I think, around June 1st on that label.
Great.
So it should be cool.
So the national release will be June 1st. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Awesome. So listeners, you're getting a rare treat, with Pat Parra here. So Pat, we're going to go on a short break here, and we're going to bring on Brenda, and then I want to bring you back because I think when you get a chance to listen to Brenda's story, it's pretty compelling, and obviously we just heard, probably sounds like the love of your life broke your heart. And there's a lot of pain there. When you hear Brenda's story, I think the two of you will be able to really compare notes. And she's all about the forgiveness. So we're going to bring you back here in a little bit.
And now let's return to Access Zen.
And we're back. All right, we've got just a an incredibly jamming show. And coming up with me here in this segment, we've got Brenda Edelman. Brenda, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me.
It's just a pleasure to have you on the show today. So for folks who haven't had the pleasure of seeing Brenda live and her incredible, your absolutely amazing play called My Brooklyn Hamlet, I had the opportunity to see it for the first time this past Friday. And I have to tell you, as much as, that great song from Parra blew me away, you equally blew me away with that show. It just really hit me. Just the incredible life that you've led and just the incredible events that have happened to you. So welcome. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks so much. I'm glad you could make it. It was a great event.
Yes, it was, and you did it for just a beautiful cause. Your life partner, Dana. So that's just wonderful. So we'll look forward to hearing from you today and telling us all about your story.
Thanks. So did you want me to maybe? I have this great thing that I want to read, actually. How about I just jump in there? Because I'd like to do a little background about who I am for your listeners.
Wonderful.
So this comes from my book. So this is the introduction. I grew up in Brooklyn among wise guys, my father, one of them, and big-haired women with diamonds dripping from their ring fingers. Cash was God, toughness was rewarded by neighborhood popularity, and Cadillac Eldorados were the car of choice. Dad taught me how to shoot a .38 caliber gun when I was 10. His nickname for me was Brenda Badenda, my great defender. I was definitely Daddy's little girl. And Mom was this eclectic bohemian artist who never quite fit into Brooklyn with her short, unpolished fingernails and uncoiffed hair. A naturally beautiful, green-eyed bombshell who oozed the sexiness of Anne Margaret. She wore long, slinky gowns that covered her hourglass figure like a glove, with cutouts exposing the sides of her body up to her hips. She was one of the few women in our neighborhood who went to college and got a degree. Later in life, she returned for a master's degree in fine art photography from a school in the city. She practically strapped me to her back each summer from the time I was 3 as we globe-trotted the world together, and she read Shakespeare to me to fall asleep at night. She took photos. She made friends with Aborigines. Mom was my daring best friend. My parents' love for each other was intense and tumultuous. So was their hate. I tried to be everything good to them that they couldn't or wouldn't be for each other. And I was so wrapped up in their unhappiness, trying to help them feel better, that I didn't realize that I had put my own life, my dreams, and my goals on hold. On October 1st, 1995, my father shot my mother in the head and killed her. He married her older sister a few months later. That single bullet shattered my entire world. His subsequent marriage to my aunt altered the course of my life forever. Who was I if I wasn't my parents' daughter? What's the right amount of time to grieve, and how should it be done? I believe it's personal and unique to each individual. And if you're ready to move forward in your life and claim your joy back, I can help you by sharing the exact journey I took to turn my shocking loss, bout of depression, feelings of betrayal, and inner rage into my biggest gift by learning and practicing the art of forgiveness. Remember, forgiveness is for you, not anyone else. There you go.
Wow. Well, that gives our listeners just a incredible background. So, I got a lot of questions for you. I'm sure our listeners will too. Tell us about, this incredible relationship with your mother and father. And this really does almost sound so surreal. How could it be real? How could it be true, right?
Very Shakespearean. That's why I make the analogy to Shakespeare's character of Hamlet, and that's the name of my one-woman show, because in Hamlet, his father was killed by his uncle, and then his uncle married his mother. And in my case, my father killed my mother and married her sister. And actually, it was that character in Shakespeare that gave me solace during my darkest days, because I realized somebody, somewhere had gone through, even if it was in literature, someone had gone through what I had gone through, and I wasn't so alone. And what I realized by kind of coming out of the closet, by sharing my story, is that a lot of people, unfortunately, have gone through pretty devastating things, but instead of talking about it, they're very filled with shame, and so they hide. They close their heart down. So part of my mission is to share my story. Of course, I've done years and years and years of work on myself so that I could move out of my own shame and self-loathing and really love myself, not feel damaged because of what happened with my parents, and then share that message with other people.
Yeah, that's really powerful, Brenda, because I'm sure, maybe not everybody has all the drama, but I'm sure some people who may be listening have, and a lot of people, it can scar them for life in ways they don't even realize, right?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I started teaching workshops on how to forgive about 4 years ago, and what I realized is that there were people who would come who, had been in, let's say, a relationship for, let's say, even just a few short months, but that relationship and the breakup or the betrayal they felt was really as devastating as my father betraying me and my mother by killing her, because it's universal, those feelings of betrayal. So, or feeling ashamed because you were taken advantage of, or you didn't see what was in front of you. A lot of my work is about moving out of denial, really looking at, at what's happened so that you can start making positive choices instead of dwelling on how bad something was or how wrong someone was. I have a 3-step process I developed over the years to really help people move out of the past, really. Making peace with the past is one of the most important things.
Tell us about that process.
Just grabbing my table of contents so I could get it. What I found for myself, because I was extremely close with my dad as well as my mother, I really was Daddy's little girl. And so part of that was I was also in denial. I only saw what I wanted to see in the house. And I also, just couldn't ever think that the inevitable would happen, that my father would shoot my mother, even though there were signs. There were definitely signs about it. So my first step in my process is moving out of denial and into acceptance of what is. Because I've worked with people over the years who, let's say they've been in a relationship where their partner is cheating on them, but keeps denying it. And they choose, because it's so painful sometimes, to go unconscious, even though they know that something is awry, and that, it's okay for them to not want their partner to cheat on them, and it's also okay for their partner to cheat. If that's what that person chooses, it's like learning to let go of trying to change somebody. So it's really moving out of denial into acceptance. When I finally accepted that my father did kill my mother, because I was in denial, I was like, I chose to believe my dad's, kind of lies and excuses, and, he said that he couldn't remember who pulled the trigger, that they were fighting, and yet there were 8 hours before the police were called, and his gun, the gun I actually learned to shoot when I was a kid, shoot on, disappeared. There was a cleanup, and instead of looking at the facts, I was in denial. It was like, no, my dad must be right. Now, I know I did it because I couldn't bear emotionally losing both of my parents in that one night, but it was, an extra 3 years of me being in denial and being in depression because there was this push-pull. I hate my father. I love my father. I believe my father, and yet my gut was like, don't believe this man. So moving out of denial is the first step.
Yes, and let me just pause you there, because there's a lot you just said with that statement, and I think the part that registers with me is that I would say almost every human on this planet, and I'm sure when Pat joined us in the next segment, he probably would agree, and that is there is this almost sense of compulsion we have to unresolved issues that tend to reoccur even within the same relationship, like someone cheating, or in your case, you experience all of the above. But as I watched your play, it's like you would see these events, and then like he called you, what was it that you said? Brenda Bedenda, my defender?
Yeah.
And I kept seeing that theme coming back and back and back, and it's like, wow. It's like human nature. You wanted to believe him. You wanted him to be good. And I can tell you, growing up, I had the exact same feelings about my family, too,
Interesting. Right, and you so want to believe what you want to believe that you ignore the truth, and you ignore your own gut. And that the whole key is waking up and taking responsibility, that, trusting yourself, getting clear on what's conditioning. What's conditioning because your father, you grow up that you're supposed to believe your father. It's like, well, where does that change, and where do you start trusting yourself and start acting on that? So, yeah, there's it's that thing of I can't remember right now, but where you keep getting the lesson until you learn it. Or there's that thing with God. You're in a flood, and God sends you a boat. You don't take it. Then you're on the roof, and God sends you a helicopter, and you don't take it. So you finally end up dying in the flood because you haven't taken action based on the help you're getting or the insight. So yeah.
And that's sometimes the most painful part, right, Brenda, to get out of the denial, to face the ugly truth. It just is what it is,
because you think you're
right?
going to die, and yet it is the absolute key to getting into the other side. Because literally, when I woke up and acknowledged that my father did this, I also then decided to take my father to court for wrongful death, standing up to him again, and I was able to set healthy boundaries for the first time in my life. And at the same time, because I was setting a boundary with him, I started having wonderful people in my life who were not taking advantage of me, who were wonderful, who were positive, because I was finally taking care of myself.
And you probably saw those as I watched you play again. I saw in a lot of your relationships that theme would come back, super passionate, and then it would be someone who was speaking frankly, kind of a jerk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was because I was living my life based on conditions and modeling from my parents instead of really going within, taking responsibility for my life and making proactive choices. I was reactive instead of creating my life. So that's step one. And step one within that step is also unleashing your anger and you're upset in a really healthy way. It's not about suppressing it and saying, well, I can't be angry. It's about whatever's there, really let it out in a healthy way. And that's where, as a coach, I come in and help people do that. People can do that with journaling or something called freeform writing, where they write out their anger and then burn it or tear it up and take it out of the house, so that this is the time where you really look at all those judgments and stuff. And then once you think how terrible the person was to do whatever they did to you, step two, which is so important, is to actually give up your need to be right. That's the irony, but that's the next step to really, really moving to the next level of freedom.
Brenda, we're going to take a short break, and I want to come back, and I want you to finish up on point 2 and get us to point 3 and continue with this great story. And then, of course, Pat's going to come back and play another incredible song from the Lord.
And now, let's return to Access Zen.
Okay, and Brenda, just some really amazing stuff relating to denial. So continue where you left off. I think you were on step 2.
Yeah,
what do we call step 2?
Step 2 is really giving up your need to be right. So in step 1, you've moved out of denial and you've moved into acceptance of what is, which also brings you presence. So you're no longer in the past and what happened. Instead, you actually worked on your emotions and got in touch with your anger or sadness or whatever you might have been stuffing or might have been lashing out inappropriately at other people, things like that. You're releasing it in a healthy way. And then once you've done that, you actually move on to step 2, which is now giving up your need to be right. And what I mentioned in the show is I really got one of the real teaching points for me when I started to move through my forgiveness and get to the other side of the unforgiveness was that there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. There's nothing either right or wrong, but thinking makes it so. That was a Shakespeare quote. It's really about perspective. So you want to get all your righteousness out, and then you want to realize that, you know what? You being righteous and blaming is keeping you stuck in the past. And a great example of why this is so important is that when my father killed my mother, my brother and I actually separated for 6 years because it was my father who killed our mother. And my brother wasn't in denial at all, but because we felt so differently, we stopped talking for 6 years, and I judged my brother as abandoning me. Here's my older brother, my only brother. He should be there for me. How come he couldn't see my side? Why did he not let me see his kids? And I was so righteous in my anger toward him, which was a stage. And then when I decided to take my father to court for wrongful death in 2001, I was doing that court case with my brother, and I thought, oh, my goodness, how am I going to get on the same page with my brother? And I looked at all those judgments, those righteous judgments I had against him, and I realized he could turn all those things against me. Why did I abandon him? Why, as his only sister, his younger sister, did I not let him into my life? And so from that place, I forgave all the judgments that came forward of him, of myself. I let go of thinking there's only one way of thinking, realizing that there's perspective about everything. And then I really did a lot of self-forgiveness because I felt so bad about closing my heart down. So that's step 2. And along with step 2 would be setting healthy boundaries at the same time. So you don't want to just forgive and forget. It's forgive and recognize, use discernment. Is someone going to hurt you again? With my father, I gave up my need to be right or try to get anything from him or have him explain anything because it wasn't happening. That would be banging my head against the wall. But at the same time, I took him to court, and not from a place of anger, I hate you, but from a place of, this is what I need to do right now to stand up for myself. And what ended up happening is he skipped town, and I never saw him again. But again,
Wow.
it wasn't from I hate you in anger. It was this is what I need to do for myself.
I think that's a great point, because I think sometimes when we, start to have our spiritual awakening, whatever path that you might choose to take, we kind of get to this place of like Gandhi, like, oh, I can't do any harm, and I better not, do anything that might be perceived as me being angry towards someone. But I really like the way you couch that, because it's okay to stand up for ourselves, right?
Yes, absolutely. You want to stand up for yourself, and I say it's the difference between a hard boundary and a healthy boundary. Sometimes you actually have to have a hard boundary where you won't see somebody, you won't return their calls because you don't know how to set up a healthy boundary when you're around them, and that's usually a first step. But then a healthy boundary is when you know you have a right to not see someone if they disrespect you and things like that. And at the same time, which leads me into step 3, which is at the same time you're sending love to the person that you felt was your enemy or did you wrong. You have truly healed when you are able to send love or feel loving. When you think of them without a compulsion to call or make them wrong or get together with them, but literally just they don't disturb your peace anymore.
Great. Well, very fittingly, we're going to go to another cut from Pat Parra's incredible record, Lowered, and this song is called Blindness. And then when we come back, Pat's going to join you, and we can get to your third point, and I'm sure Pat will have some great things to share with us. I'm Gregory Foster. You're listening to Access N, and here's Blindness.
This blindness is wishing me your way. My mind is holding to the windowsill. Do you think I can make it? Do you think how I'll survive the fall? See, my mind is holding where you left. I'm fine if I could leave it for my last breath, and I'm wasting your time to fall, to
And we're back. Wow, Pat, that was another incredibly compelling song. Please share with us, and obviously the title kind of fits. How does that tie into what you just heard Brenda say?
Yeah, I think kind of perfectly what Brenda was talking about, denial, and I think it's probably a lot to do with what I was going through, like just experiencing a lot of blindness in regards to my feelings and why I was feeling depressed and all these things. And I think it definitely had something to do with me not wanting to, or not being ready to look at certain things, or not, in regards to my girlfriend, or just not even sure where pain that I was experiencing was coming from. And so a lot of things she was saying resonated a lot with me. It's great to hear how it seems like you've conquered, how Brenda's conquered all these things, and just like really found the step-by-step process how to work it out. It's cool.
Yeah, I would agree. So Brenda, tell us more about part 3, and then clearly, Pat's music kind of ties in. It's almost like a soundtrack. In fact, I'd say it is a soundtrack for the show today. So,
yeah.
Right, share some more with us.
Well, step 3 is, like I started to mention, it's sending love and light to the person who hurt you. And I worked on this process a lot with my father, and then with my brother, and then the last person I realized I really hadn't done this with, not to the extent, or really it's like peeling an onion, the layers of healing. So it's, I hadn't done the next level, which I needed to get to, was with my aunt who had married my father. And I realized this, and this is really interesting for people. I didn't know my unforgiveness was hurting me because she doesn't live in the same state. When I took my father to court, her and my father skipped town, so she's not part of my daily activities. So a lot of people do this. They're like, well, that person doesn't affect me. But what happened was there was a new kind of friend that came into my life about 3 years ago, and everything about this woman pissed me off. I misread everything she said, or I put more into it. I got triggered, and I'm very conscious. Let me knock on wood. I do this work all the time, and I didn't know why everything this woman did upset me, and it sent me back to a therapist, and I went, and I realized that unconsciously this woman reminded me of my aunt. She kind of had mannerisms like my aunt, coloring like my aunt, and so I went back and I did forgiveness work. I did something called a 32-day process, which was, I took a picture out of my aunt and I had her on an altar, and I did forgiveness of judgments for like a month, 32 days, until I could start to bring her into my awareness and I could consciously deal with her versus her, insidiously kind of affecting the relationships in my life. And it really transformed my relationships. I was able to actually apologize to that woman in my life for my upset, but not take over responsibility. Not say, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I'm such a bad person, because I was fully loving myself and releasing my anger toward my aunt. Another way to get in touch with this place of loving is to do gratitude. Do a gratitude journal for the things that you are grateful for. And if you notice your mind obsessing over someone or something that happened, literally just shifting to something you love. I always think about my dog's face because I just love her so much. It's like literally just shake up that pattern within yourself. And I just wanted to mention briefly that all these steps can be found in my ebook, which is forgiveandbefreebook.com, all spelled out, forgiveandbefreebook.com, forgiveandbefreebook.com. So, so those are the steps, and of course there's little mini steps within everything, and there's different ways to send loving. But the most important thing I would say is to bring everything to consciousness, so that it can be healed, because otherwise it can hide underneath and affect your life now.
And that's a really great point, and I know you mentioned that at the show, and I really applaud your honesty, because when you've done a lot of this deep work, it's like, oh, I'm good, I've forgiven every aspect, but you were pretty honest that you've made a lot of progress with your aunt, but you still have a little ways to go. Is that right?
Oh, yes, and I said the reason I know that is because I no longer am triggered when I think about her, but I don't honestly wish her, well. It's like we had taken my father to court for wrongful death. We won $2 million. My father took off and, hid his money in offshore accounts and stuff like that, and I cannot say, oh, you know what? I'm glad my aunt has that money and we never collect it. I just can't get there. So not yet. But to tell you the truth, I mean, that's my intention, to get there and not go into right and wrong and this and that and just be like, you know what? That's great. I have enough. I don't, even though the legal system judged that to be what should happen, it's okay. I don't need to be involved in any of that energy anymore.
So that's really beautiful, and I really, acknowledge you for that. I think that, from my vantage point, I think most of us out there have someone in our life that we've kind of gone in that denial stage, and you know it because you keep your feelings walled off in that person, and yet that same person somehow in a different form comes back into your life and re-triggers you, and that's kind of evidence that there's work to be done, right?
Yes, absolutely, and it's great when you have enough consciousness to know that, to know that the common denominator in the pattern is you,
That's beautiful. And Brenda, we're going to need to take a quick break.
And now, let's return to Access Zen.
And I'm back, and we're going to jump right into this incredible song by Pat Parra from his groundbreaking record, Lowered. It's called My Soul. And we'll be right back with Pat in just a moment. Pat, that was a very eclectic song. Tell us, please share with us the inspiration behind My Soul.
My Soul is kind of like, kind of had to do with dreaming and kind kind of going to sleep to escape pain, and then getting in touch with my soul and kind of having outer body experiences when I sleep. And that's kind of my coping mechanism, or something that I've always done, is just sleep when I felt depressed and stuff like that.
So when you go into that deep sleep, you kind of get a chance to work your process a little bit. That's kind of what I'm hearing, right?
Yeah, it's kind of an escape. Like I have a lot of dreams where I'm flying, and I guess people say that means you're having out of body experiences. And I travel a lot when I'm sleeping. So I don't know.
Well, it's beautiful. Well, the song really kind of captures the moment, and I just applaud you for that. So thank you so much for that. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
So, Pat, how can we reach you? How do we get a hold of your record, and how do we see you play live?
Yeah, I'm on all the normal, like Facebook, MySpace stuff. You can search me on there. And then I'm playing in the Bay Area a lot right now, San Francisco. All that information is on my Bandcamp page, just patparra.bandcamp.com. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
And that's Pat, P-A-T-P-A-R-R-A, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Beautiful. The name of his record, Lowered, I just can't encourage y'all enough to get a copy of that and support Pat and go out and see him live. Pat, my cousin lives up in the Bay Area, so if I get a chance, I definitely want to come see you play, my friend.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, Brenda, how do we reach you? And this is just an incredible story, and I almost wish we had another half hour, but we are where we are.
Okay, well, I'm also on Facebook, Brenda Edelman, BrendaAdelman. Also at Facebook.com/Forgiveness and Freedom. AND is spelled in the middle. And then my main website is forgivenessandfreedom.com, forgivenessandfreedom.com, and the book is there too.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Just really compelling stuff here on forgiveness. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
And Pat, have a wonderful time, and both of you, really appreciate you on the show. Have yourself a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you in next week's show. Many blessings.